Have you ever noticed, the moment you defend yourself, you've already lost? The second you explain, justify, or beg to be understood, you hand your enemies something far more dangerous than your words. You hand them your power, because when you rush to defend yourself, you confirm their accusation has weight. You validate their frame, and worst of all, you let them set the rules of the game. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned princes and power players, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But hidden inside that philosophy is a darker truth. To be feared, you must appear untouchable. And no man who defends himself ever looks untouchable. So today, we're diving deep into Machiavelli's hidden trick, the ancient art of never defending yourself, and how to flip accusations, attacks, and traps into power moves that make you look dangerously calm while others burn. Lesson 1. The weakness hidden in explanation. When you explain yourself, you admit that someone else's opinion matters. You signal they're the judge and you're on trial. Psychologists call this the frame of dominance. Whoever defines the frame wins the power struggle. And defense is always a reaction, never leadership. Think about it. When someone accuses you of arrogance, dishonesty, or failure, and you say, "No, I didn't mean it like that," you're already inside their world. You've accepted their premise, their story, their lens. And once you do, you can only play defense, never offense. Machiavelli would say, "A wise man should never be at the mercy of interpretation." So he trained rulers to do the opposite. Instead of explaining, redirect. Instead of defending, reframe. Lesson 2. The silent power of indifference. There's a strange force in silence. When you refuse to defend yourself, people grow uneasy. They fill the silence with their own doubts. In psychology, this is called the projection effect. The human mind can't stand uncertainty, so it invents stories. And in those stories, the one who stays calm always looks stronger. That's why kings didn't argue with peasants. They didn't lower their voice to justify their actions. They let mystery do the heavy lifting. In The Prince, Machiavelli advised rulers to maintain a majestic silence, a presence that says, "I do not explain, because I owe no explanation." Modern power players still use this. Notice how billionaires, generals, or political leaders often ignore criticism completely. They know silence doesn't show guilt. It shows control. Lesson 3. Accusation as a test, not an attack. Every accusation is a test of composure. People poke, provoke, and gossip to see, will you react? When you defend yourself, you fail the test. When you stay composed, you pass it, and they subconsciously assign you higher status. This is rooted in dominance psychology. Among wolves, lions, even humans, the alpha doesn't flinch when challenged. He stares back, calm, unshaken. In the Renaissance courts, Machiavelli watched men destroy themselves, not because they were guilty, but because they looked guilty when they rushed to defend their pride. He wrote, "Men are so simple and so obedient to present necessities that he who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived." In other words, people believe what they see, not what they hear. And the man who doesn't defend himself looks like he has nothing to hide. Lesson 4. The trap of emotional proof. The moment you defend yourself emotionally, you lose logical ground. Because emotion doesn't convince, it exposes. Ever argued with someone who twisted your words? No matter how clearly you explained yourself, they always found another angle, another accusation. That's because they didn't want clarity. They wanted control. Robert Greene explains this perfectly in the 48 Laws of Power. When you are trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. Defending yourself is just another form of overtalking. And overtalking is the death of power. So when you feel that surge, that need to justify, clarify, explain, pause, take a breath, and say nothing. Because nothing is terrifying. Lesson 5. How to flip the frame. Let's get tactical. When you're attacked, accused, or challenged, don't respond defensively. Respond with curiosity. Example, Someone says, "You think you're better than everyone." Instead of saying, "No, I don't," you look at them and calmly say, "Interesting. Why do you think that?" That single move flips the frame. Now they're explaining. They're on the defensive. And you're back in control. This is Machiavelli's favorite maneuver. Turn defense into observation. You shift from accused to judge, without saying a single defensive word. Lesson 6. Reputation is built on perception, not proof. In Florence, reputations were currency. One rumor could end a career or start a revolution. Machiavelli wrote that appearances are more powerful than truth. Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand. For everyone can see, but few can feel. Meaning, people don't care what's true. They care what looks true. So if you look unbothered, detached, and calm, you look powerful no matter what's said about you. In today's world, that's the art of psychological non-reactivity. Let others scream. Let them accuse. The crowd always sides with the one who looks composed. We've uncovered the first 6 layers of Machiavelli's secret: how silence, composure, and reframing turn accusation into authority. Lesson 7. The art of weaponizing misunderstanding. Machiavelli once wrote, "He who builds on the people builds on mud." He knew the masses were fickle, easily swayed by rumor, emotion, and spectacle. So he taught a paradox. Don't correct misunderstanding, weaponize it. When someone misjudges you, your instinct screams to fix it, to explain, to clear your name. But every explanation ties you down to their version of reality. Instead, Machiavellian thinkers let the misunderstanding grow, because confusion gives them fog to move within. Napoleon used this masterfully. When accused of tyranny, he didn't defend himself. He just acted as if destiny itself had chosen him. His silence turned rumor into mythology. And in modern life, this still works. Let people wonder what you meant. Let them speculate. Because in mystery, there's always leverage. Lesson 8. Reverse psychology of power. Here's a psychological truth. The more someone tries to prove they're innocent, the more guilty they look. This bias, called the illusory truth effect, makes repetition sound like proof. So when you repeat your defense over and over, you accidentally reinforce the accusation. Machiavelli understood human perception better than most psychologists today. He knew perception is not logical, it's emotional. So instead of saying, "I'm not like that," you act so above it that people start doubting the accuser. You flip the narrative from "he's hiding something" to "why does that person keep attacking him?" It's the law of social contrast. The calmer you remain, the louder their obsession looks. Lesson 9. Turning enemies into actors. In The Prince, Machiavelli reveals something chilling. Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. When you refuse to defend yourself, you give your enemies rope. They keep talking, keep over-explaining, keep showing their bitterness. Soon they look emotional, petty, obsessed. Meanwhile, your silence turns them into your PR team. Every insult they throw becomes a mirror reflecting their insecurity. History is full of this. When Marcus Aurelius was accused of weakness for his stoic nature, he didn't argue. He just kept leading Rome with calm precision. Decades later, his critics are forgotten, but his stillness is immortal. Lesson 10. The power of controlled mystery. Mystery is the twin brother of authority. Without it, you're predictable, and predictable people can be manipulated. Carl Jung once said, "Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling." That harmony, that balance is what mystery looks like. Calm, measured, impossible to decode. When people can't fully read you, they assume you know something they don't. That assumption becomes respect. Machiavelli called it the theater of rule. Leaders must cultivate mystique, not by pretending, but by never revealing their emotional hand. Modern application: stop oversharing. Stop clarifying every thought online. Power grows in silence, in what's unsaid. Lesson 11. Emotional transmutation. From defense to dominance. You can't stop feeling defensive. You can only transmute it. The trick? When attacked, don't fight the emotion. Channel it into posture, tone, and silence. That sudden rush of adrenaline, turn it into stillness. The slight anger in your chest, turn it into presence. Machiavelli would say, a prince must learn to act against mercy, against faith, against humanity, and against religion when it is necessary. Not because he despised morality, but because he valued control over reaction. Power isn't in emotion, it's in command of emotion. Lesson 12. The psychological mirror. Here's the Machiavellian paradox. When you stop defending yourself, the world starts defending you. Because people project onto stillness. They fill the silence with their own meaning. The more you stay grounded, the more others rush to interpret you, and in doing so, they reveal themselves. This is what Jung meant by the shadow effect. When someone attacks you without cause, they're often fighting the parts of themselves they can't accept. Your composure reflects their chaos, so you don't need to respond. You just need to hold the mirror steady. Lesson 13. When to speak and how. Machiavelli never said never speak. He said, speak only when silence has done its work. When you finally respond, do it briefly, coldly, with precision like a blade. Example, if someone asks, why didn't you defend yourself? You say, truth doesn't need defending. That line ends all debate. It's what Green calls a power closure, a statement that ends argument by sounding final and elevated. You become untouchable not because you fought, but because you transcended the fight. We've now uncovered nearly all layers of this dark strategy. From emotional control to psychological silence. You've learned how not defending yourself creates an aura that bends perception itself. Lesson 14. Power in everyday life, the Stoic response. This isn't just a theory for princes and rulers. It's a weapon for you in everyday life. At work, when someone undermines you. In relationships, when someone twists your words. Online, when people try to bait you into reaction. The Stoic response isn't silence for weakness, the silence for strategy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That's your inner Machiavelli. Calm, calculating, unshakable. You don't owe anyone your emotional availability. You choose when and to whom you reveal your energy. Lesson 15. Using silence to control timing. Machiavelli understood that timing is half of power. When you stay silent, you delay the game. You force others to move first. You make them reveal their plan, their emotion, their weakness. In military strategy, this is called tactical patience. The best generals don't rush to attack. They wait, observe, and strike when the enemy is off balance. The same rule applies in conversation. When someone challenges you and you pause, the silence stretches. They get nervous. They start talking more. They expose themselves. Silence bends time to your favor. It slows the world down while you stay still in the center. Lesson 16. Turning reputation into aura. Reputation is not just what people think of you. It's what they feel when you walk in the room. When you stop defending yourself, you start radiating something deeper. Certainty. People can feel it before you speak. That quiet assurance that says, I know who I am. You can't shake it. This is what Machiavelli meant by virtù. The personal power of character and presence that commands respect. Not morality, not goodness, but effectiveness. Robert Greene calls it the aura of inevitability. People follow those who look unquestionably sure of their path. Lesson 17. The counterintuitive rule. Appear soft, be steel. A Machiavellian doesn't walk around acting superior or cold. He wears softness as camouflage, because raw aggression attracts resistance. But calm confidence attracts trust, and trust gives access. Appear approachable. Speak gently. Smile when others expect anger. That's how you invert the frame. People drop their guard and you move freely. Remember, Machiavelli advised rulers to be both lion and fox. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be both fox and lion. That's the art power wrapped in grace. Steel covered in velvet. Lesson 18, the Machiavellian mirror, how to let people reveal themselves. When you stop defending yourself, something interesting happens. People start revealing their true nature. Friends show loyalty. Enemies show envy. Pretenders show fear. Your restraint becomes a mirror. Your stillness becomes a test. You'll see who panics when you don't respond, who grows distant when you stay silent, who respects you more when you don't chase their approval. Machiavelli believed silence was the ultimate interrogation tool. He wrote that a ruler must be a great dissembler and hypocrite, not to deceive but to observe, because people show their truth when you give them space to talk. Lesson 19, how to stay calm when you're burning inside. Here's the hardest part, because silence sounds easy, until your blood is boiling. When someone lies about you, when they twist your words, when they humiliate you publicly, everything inside screams, defend yourself, fight back. That's the test. And how you handle it determines your real rank in the hierarchy of power. Here's how to hold the line. Breathe first. Never react on the inhale, only on the exhale. That pause rewires your mind from reaction to control. Shift perspective. Ask, what frame am I in right now? If you're defending, you're losing. Switch to curiosity or silence. Visualize detachment. Imagine their words as smoke. They rise, they fade, and they vanish. When you can do that, when you can stay calm while burning inside, you become untouchable. Lesson 20. How to make silence speak for you. The most powerful people don't use silence as emptiness. They use it as symbolism. Your silence should make others wonder. Should whisper, I could destroy you with words, but you're not worth the energy. Machiavelli would call this theater. Every gesture, every pause, every glance calculated. When people gossip about you and you stay quiet, your silence turns into legend. Because no one can argue with what they can't define. You've now walked through Machiavelli's labyrinth, from silence to composure, from emotion to authority. But one truth remains. It's not about defending yourself. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs defense. Lesson 21. The ultimate lesson: power without reaction. All the strategies we've discussed lead to one profound truth. Power doesn't react, it absorbs. When you defend yourself, you expend energy. When you attack, you reveal intent. When you explain, you validate someone else's reality. But when you do nothing, you transform attack into observation, accusation into performance, chaos into your calm. Machiavelli knew this. It is double pleasure to deceive the deceiver, and the ultimate deception, the one that guarantees dominance, is to make people believe they control the narrative, while you silently own it. Lesson 22. Life as a chessboard. Every conversation, every accusation, every judgment is a move on the chessboard of life. Those who defend themselves are always reacting. They are pawns. They expend energy chasing the king's shadow. Those who stay silent are queens, knights, bishops, players who dictate tempo and manipulate perception. Machiavelli advised rulers to think 3 moves ahead, not to react to every insult or accusation. In your daily life, stay aware, observe, measure the world before you expend a single word defending yourself. Lesson 23. Make your composure contagious. Power is not only personal, it's social. When you refuse to defend yourself, you set a standard. Others follow your lead. They mirror your calm. They respect your presence. They hesitate before attacking because your energy projects authority. Think of it like gravity. The more still you are, the more the world revolves around you. Historical example: Queen Elizabeth I often ignored attacks on her character, letting her silence speak louder than any defense. Her reputation for composure created loyalty and fear simultaneously. Lesson 24. The danger of reactivity. Defending yourself is seductive, feels righteous, feels like victory, But every time you defend, you enter someone else's battlefield. You fight on their terms. You give them energy, time, and attention. Machiavelli warned, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command with silence as well as speech." Your silence is the ultimate command. Signals, "I am above this. I am untouchable. I am unshaken." Lesson 25, the final Machiavellian twist: defense is power in disguise. Here's the paradox. When you stop defending yourself, you gain control over reality. The world no longer defines you. Gossip loses its weight. Accusations crumble. You are no longer a character in someone else's story. You are the author of your own narrative. The key is patience, observation, and a commitment to silence until the moment is yours. Now imagine yourself in every situation that used to upset you. A colleague attacks you at work. You remain calm. A friend spreads gossip. You observe, you measure, you wait. Social media erupts in judgment. You scroll past with quiet confidence. Notice the shift. You are no longer pulled into chaos. You are the still center. The world spins around you, and in your silence, power whispers. Machiavelli would smile, because he knew the ultimate lesson. Men are driven by perception, not truth. The man who masters perception masters all. And today, you've learned how to never defend yourself, how to let silence, mystery, and composure do the work that words, emotion, and reaction never could. Summary of lessons. Defending yourself signals weakness. Silence creates unease, a psychological weapon. Every accusation is a test. Pass it with composure. Emotional proof is a trap. Stay logical in stillness. Flip the frame. Make others explain, not you. Reputation is built on perception, not truth. Weaponize misunderstanding. Reverse psychology of power. Let others look foolish. Turn enemies into actors. Their noise serves you. Controlled mystery equals authority. Transmute emotion into presence. Use the psychological. Mirror, observe, don't react. Speak only when silence has done its work. Stoic calm applies to everyday life. Silence controls timing. Your aura grows from stillness. Appear soft, be still, the fox and the lion. Let others reveal themselves in your presence. Calm while burning inside. Mastery over emotion. Make silence speak. Legend forms in restraint. Power absorbs, never reacts. Life is a chessboard, move strategically. Composure is contagious. Reactivity is seductive but destructive. Defense in disguise, stop defending to gain ultimate control. If you remember one thing from today, never defend. Observe, reframe, command silence. Because the world rewards those who remain untouchable, those who move above chaos, those who turn accusation into authority. Walk through life as Machiavelli walked through Florence. Calm, calculated, composed, and watch as power bends to your presence.